Another body has been returned from Gaza. However, the remains were found not to belong to any of the 13 deceased hostages still held in the Strip. And as Israel faces this disappointment, one family from Kibbutz Be'eri is finally laying their loved one to rest. For more, we go to ILTV correspondent India Naftali. India, what can you tell us?
Yes, Lidar. Another body was brought back to Israel late yesterday evening as the mission to return every hostage continues. And while that process moves forward, across Israel, families are holding funerals for those whose loved ones have finally come home, including Yossi Sharabi, the brother of former hostage Eli Sharabi. The Israel Defense Forces confirmed the remains were transferred from Gaza late Monday and taken to the National Institute for Forensic Medicine in Tel Aviv. The Red Cross coordinated the handover as part of the ongoing efforts involving Israeli, Egyptian, and Qatari mediators. It turns out the remains handed over to Israel are those of former hostage Ofir Tsarfati, whose body was already recovered by the IDF back in December 2023. They do not belong to any of the 13 hostages still held in Gaza, bringing deep disappointment to the families still waiting. At Kibbutz Be'eri, hundreds came together to mourn Yossi Sharabi, who was abducted on October 7, 2023. His brother Eli Sharabi, himself a freed hostage, delivered a moving eulogy that resonated across the country.
אנחנו סוף סוף זוכים לקבור אותך כאן בבית, באדמת בארי. זה לא הסוף שייחלנו לו. אבל זו התחלה של צדק מאוחר, של מקום לנשום, של מקום לבכות.
President Isaac Herzog joined the mourners, addressing the Sharabi family and the entire community on behalf of the nation.
כנשיא מדינת ישראל, בשם מדינת ישראל והעם כולו, אני מבקש ממך יוסי, מכם משפחת שרעבי ומקיבוץ בארי כולו, סליחה ומחילה.
Israel's mission to bring back every hostage remains central, not just to the grieving of the families, but to the future of the region. Officials and mediators say that without the return of all the hostages, both living and deceased, the broader peace plan cannot move forward. Back to you, Lidar.
Thank you, India, for the report. And moving on, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a special security discussion with heads of the security establishment to discuss Israel's steps in response to the blatant violation by Hamas. President Trump's 48-hour ultimatum to the terror group to return all the bodies has passed, and Israel fully expects a green light to retaliate. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
A member of Hamas's Izzeddin al-Qassam brigade told Al Jazeera yesterday that the remains that were turned over had been discovered during excavation efforts in the Tufa neighborhood in Gaza City. The Gaza City area is currently on the Hamas side of the yellow line, marking Israeli control. But according to eyewitness accounts from IDF reservists, Hamas allegedly staged the discovery of a body it claimed was that of a deceased hostage. Channel 12 News and Army Radio quoted reservists in eastern Gaza City who said Hamas operatives were seen digging in the area before bringing a body from a nearby building and placing it in a hole. Then they covered the body with dirt and called the Red Cross to watch as they uncovered it. The IDF has yet to comment officially. President Trump's 48-hour deadline for Hamas to return all of the bodies of Israeli hostages has come and gone, with 13 bodies still unrecovered. The ultimatum came after Washington concluded that Hamas was not truthful about locating the hostages' remains as required by the ceasefire agreement. The failure to return all of the bodies has stalled the next phase of the ceasefire agreement. Prime Minister Netanyahu was in court this morning for a hearing on his corruption trial when it was reported that he will convene an emergency meeting to discuss possible Israeli reactions to Hamas violations of the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. Israeli officials say now that Trump's deadline has expired, Israel expects a green light from the White House to impose sanctions on Hamas. Israel is reportedly considering expanding the area it controls on the Gaza Strip as a sanction against Hamas after the terror group failed to return bodies of Israeli hostages for a full week.
And it's also now on record that Israel will not accept the presence of Turkish armed forces in Gaza as part of U.S.-led plan to create an international force to disarm Hamas and monitor the Gaza ceasefire. In Budapest, after meeting his Hungarian counterpart, Foreign Minister Gideon Saar ruled out allowing Turkish troops to enter Gaza. Saar also received strong political support from Hungary, which demands that the EU change its anti-Israel approach.
Unfortunately, and mainly during the last 2 years, but even before that, Turkey led by Erdogan, led hostile approach against Israel, included not only hostile statements, but also diplomatic and economic measures against Israel. So it is not reasonable for us to let their armed forces enter to Gaza Strip. And we will not agree to that, and we said it to our American friends.
Mi felszólítjuk az Európai Uniót arra, hogy az Izrael ellenes politikának is vessen véget. Vegye le a napirendről az Izrael ellenes javaslatokat, mint például az Izrael-EU társulási megállapodás felfüggesztését, vagy a kereskedelmi korlátozásokat, vagy Izrael kizárását a Horizont programból. Mi továbbra is a magyar-izraeli, európai-izraeli együttműködés fejlesztésén dolgozunk.
UK and France should take note. And joining us now with more on the latest developments in Gaza is Yoni Ben Menachem of the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Hamas is clearly playing games, engaging in psychological warfare, however you want to call it, but at the end of the day, they are in breach of the ceasefire agreement. So what happens now, and what should Israel do, or what can Israel do at this stage?
Israel can retaliate, but the Israeli retaliation will be limited because Israel doesn't want to appear as the one who's violating or trying to harm the peace plan of President Trump. So everything has to be coordinated, fully coordinated between Israel and the United States, and this is what is going to happen. There's a meeting now held by Prime Minister Netanyahu to discuss the various possibilities how to retaliate, and after the decision will be taken, Israel will consult with the Americans and get the approval, and then we will see the Israeli retaliation.
And now this ceasefire deal has very clear stages. The first stage is, of course, the release of all the hostages. That still hasn't happened. And only once all the hostages are brought back, the deal is supposed to move to the next stage. Now, Hamas is saying it doesn't know where the hostages are, a claim Israel, of course, disputes. What are the chances that this, this great peace deal will actually move ahead to another stage without Israel having to make more concessions?
Look, I think that eventually Hamas is in a big problem. By the way, there is a video of the IDF Israeli drone who shot the whole deception campaign on the ground by Hamas, how they are bringing the body of one of the Israeli hostages and bury it on the ground, in the ground, and they call the Red Cross as if they now discovered the body. So this will be presented all over the world, and I think that also President Trump will relate to it, and this is a very strong proof against Hamas. The bottom line is that what we need out of this peace plan of Trump is only the implementation of the first stage, which means returning all the hostages. Nobody in Israel believes that we can move forward to the second stage of this plan because Hamas will never disarm, and the only force that can fully disarm Hamas is the IDF. And eventually, the estimation in Israel that we will get to this point, it's only a matter of time. But what we have to do is hurry up and get all the hostages back. Then we will have a free hand to take care of Hamas, handle Hamas deceptions and the violations of the peace plan of Trump.
And what is happening inside of Gaza now? Is Hamas simply getting stronger with every passing day?
Of course, every day that there's no IDF attacks, they are rebuilding their military infrastructure, they are recruiting more people to the military wing ranks, and they are trying to manufacture inside the tunnels rockets and other other weapons, so they can use it in the future against the IDF and against Israel. So they are now gaining time because they are having this deception campaign. But, you know, everything will come to its end. Eventually, President Trump will ask Turkey and Qatar, who are the ones who promised Trump that Hamas will implement the first stage of its plan. He will ask them, what did you do? Why aren't you sticking to your promises? And they will have to deliver. So I think it's only a matter of time until we will finish with this story.
Yoni Ben Menachem, thank you so much for joining us today and for your insights.
Thank you. Thank you.
On October 7, I was here at the Nova Music Festival. I ran for my life, hid for 7 hours. Terrorists shot me twice. Thankfully, I survived. I'm still dealing with trauma, and I'm not alone. 3 million Israelis are in trauma. They need mental health care or physical rehabilitation. Wounded soldiers, families, and scared children.
Since 1912, Hadassah has been a life-changing force in Israel. Today, Hadassah has 2 world-renowned hospitals, pioneers breakthrough medical research, cares for youth, and has built the much-needed and largest rehabilitation facility in Jerusalem.
Thank you to everyone at Hadassah Hospitals. You've been helping me, and so many others. And a special thanks to one nurse, my mom. I love you.
Meanwhile, this week marks 2 years since the start of the ground operation against the Hamas terror organization in Gaza. The massive campaign has involved tens of thousands of soldiers and reservists at a cost of 475 fallen. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
The IDF marked 2 years since the start of the ground offensive in Gaza on October 27, 2023, releasing video and photographs from the battlefields. The operation began 20 days after the Hamas-led October 7th massacre, when terrorists killed some 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and abducted 251 hostages into Gaza. Over the past 2 years, IDF troops have operated in almost every part of the Strip, including northern Gaza, Gaza City, Khan Yunis, and Rafah, in a massive campaign involving tens of thousands of soldiers and reservists. Since the start of the ground offensive, 475 have been killed in Gaza and in operations along the border. The IDF estimates it's eliminated more than 22,000 Hamas combatants in Gaza, in addition to 1,600 terrorists killed inside Israel during and after the October 7th massacre. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry claims more than 68,000 people have been killed or are presumed dead in the fighting, a figure that cannot be verified and does not distinguish between civilians and terrorists. The IDF issued a statement saying, 2 years since the beginning of the ground operation in Gaza, IDF troops have continued to eliminate threats, dismantle Hamas terror infrastructure, and work to bring every hostage home. Following 2 years of intense fighting, Israel and Hamas earlier this month agreed to a U.S.-brokered ceasefire that saw U.S. troops partially withdraw from Gaza, leaving the army in control of roughly half the territory.
That doesn't suit you.
I'm telling you what's right for you.
Listen to me, I know what I'm talking about.
Feels uncomfortable? That's just about clothing, something you can change tomorrow. But what about choices that last a lifetime? In Israel, over 30,000 women every year feel that their most fundamental right is taken away. The ability to choose. Financial pressure, pressure from a partner, pressure from family, or even that quiet voice whispering, "You can't do this." That's why FRAD exists. Not to tell her what to do, not to choose for her, but to isolate the pressure, to enable a true free choice, whether it's emotional support, medical guidance, personal mentoring, career counseling, parenting education, or the most practical essentials. A crib, a stroller, clothes, diapers, baby supplies, food packages. Everything she needs to make the choice she wants instead of the choice she feels forced to make. More than 89,000 women have already found the strength to choose and give birth. But it's not enough. We must give every woman the ability to choose. It is our moral and ethical duty. Every donation gives another woman the ability to choose. Every act of support means life for someone else. EFRAT, giving hope to birth.
And turning now to Judea and Samaria, where the IDF announced that it has foiled an imminent planned terror attack. 3 Palestinian terror operatives were reportedly killed by the Amam counterterrorism snipers during a raid in the northern West Bank village of Kfar Kud, near Jenin. Police say the operation was based on intelligence from the Shin Bet with IDF support to foil an imminent terror attack. The 3 operatives were shot after emerging from a cave used by the cell. Shortly after, the Israeli Air Force struck the same site to destroy the cave, and the IDF confirmed carrying out an airstrike in the Jenin area. And in other news, the wave of anti-Semitism around the world continues, but thankfully there are those shining a bright spotlight and combating this hateful phenomenon. One such organization is the Israeli American Council, and joining us now in the studio with more on their efforts is Aya Schechter, the Chief Programming Officer at the IAC. Aya, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, can you tell us a little bit about the Israeli American Council? Because, you know, when this organization was originally established, it was to provide support, to provide a voice, essentially, for Israeli Americans.
So the Israeli American Council was actually started after the Second Lebanon War, when some Jewish organizations organized rally in support of Israel, and they actually wanted to reach the Israeli American community. And then they realized that they have no way to do that because nobody was catering to this community. And that is how the IAC was first established. And ever since then, we have been working on strengthening the identity of the next generation and their connection to Israel.
And how has that changed after October 7th and sort of this outbreak of anti-Semitism that we're seeing?
So a lot of change in how we do things. So if before we did a lot of events and activities that were around the holidays and the celebrations of Israeli culture and Jewish traditions, after October 7th, a lot of our attention was focused around fighting anti-Semitism. A lot of what we did was around the fight to release the hostages. And a lot of what we're doing now is also centered around fighting anti-Semitism as well as civic engagement and educating our community in the United States on what they can and should do to impact their lives in the United States to live free of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, and so can you maybe go into a little bit more specifics? For example, I know that you do a lot of work on college campuses where we really have seen, the encampments and really a lot of anti-Semitism there. So
yes, so IAC was actually the first organization to actually protest in front of an encampment. And we started to organize that rally, and a lot of other Jewish organizations joined us. And it was in UCLA. And we had thousands of people who came and we protested in front of the encampment. And actually, after that, the encampment in UCLA was gone. We did that in MIT as well. And days later, the encampment was gone. So we really took initiative against those encampments. And we were essential in actually the breakdown of those encampments eventually.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that it's not only on college campuses that you're doing work as well. I mean, it's even at the level of elementary schools, because really this is a widespread phenomenon.
Yes. So I think when we started seeing things on college campuses, it was, it's like seeing the fruit, but actually the roots goes much deeper. And we see more and more that anti-Semitism is in public schools, in K through 12. We have a service for our community that helps them to come to us and tell us, what is going on, and we track and help families and kids who experience anti-Semitism in schools. We see it all the time, from swastikas on lockers, through students who are being harassed by classmates or being discriminated against by their teachers. So there is a wide phenomenon of anti-Semitism in public schools now.
Aya Schechter, thank you so much for joining us today and for all of your insights.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And today, we once again have the pleasure of hearing from Yael Eckstein, president of the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, as she brings us the latest highlights and inspiring updates from the fellowship's ongoing work.
Shalom, my friends, from here in the Holy Land. Here are 2 fellowship projects that you should know about this week. Number 1, renovations of kindergartens. On October 7th, when the terrorists infiltrated, they destroyed all of the towns on the southern border with the Gaza Strip. That included the kindergartens. That's why the fellowship has come in to renovate all of the kindergartens in the kibbutzim that were destroyed and attacked on October 7th. These children, who are continuing to grow with the threat of terror, but continuing to say, we will not be deterred. We will move back and we will grow in love and joy. That's why the fellowship is there to help them. Number 2, I want you to meet Rena, who's 94 years old, an elderly who lives in a small apartment. Recently, we went to go visit her. I sat with her as she was crying tears of loneliness and sadness, and as soon as she saw the food box that the fellowship provided for her, she immediately broke out into a smile. This food box gave her the knowledge that she's loved. She's loved by Christians and Jews around the world who are caring for her in her old age. Well, there you have it, friends. Now you know how the fellowship is feeding the elderly and building kindergartens for children who are affected by terror. Thank you for making that possible. Join us next week, same place, same time, for more updates of what's happening here in Israel at the fellowship. Shalom.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 18 degrees Celsius or 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see sunny skies alongside steady temperatures with highs of 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel. And you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gavelazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.